What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dynasty Underdog. Billy here, got Uriah with me, and we're excited to be joined by our good friend Jagger May at Fantasy Blue Chip on Twitter. Longtime listeners have known Jagger. He's been on here a few times. We got our start together back at DFF. Both moved on since. Jagger is now doing incredible work for the football guys on their YouTube channel, on Twitter, all that stuff. I'm sure anybody who's listening to us has probably seen his stuff. Love to see your growth, brother, and good to have you back on. How you doing?
Thank you so much, man. I'm doing great. Like I just said, yeah, I've grown a lot. I'm not grown as a secretary for myself, but I'm getting better.
Still trying to get the timing right in the calendar. I know it's all
good,
man. It's all good.
Isn't that why we get married though? Like half of it is just like we have somebody else to kind of handle those things for us.
That's what I told Amy.
That's the reason I did it.
Yeah. Literally, that's why I told Amy. I'm like, I've used to you just telling me things, just like, okay, this is our schedule. I'm like, all right, we're gonna go, and like, she doesn't like, she loves me. She doesn't give a shit about this at all. You know, so she's just like, you need to be an adult and figure it out.
Damn. Dude, for as long as I've known you, I didn't realize that your wife's name was Amy as well. My wife's name is Amy too, so that's pretty funny. Yeah, dude. So it's really cool, man, seeing how far you've come. I feel like I didn't even realize this with like Paul, talking about Paul Patterson with Pure Potential now, and you. I feel like we kind of like I saw you guys start your content journeys, which is pretty cool to see, kind of like go from the beginning to where you are now. It's been a fun journey, but what I want to talk about a little bit, I mean, we're film grinders, right? I've been bringing on all the film grinders. And I want to dig into the process a little bit. You know what I mean? Because like we get a lot of shit. Like, how do you know what you know? Or you know, why do you think you can evaluate these players and be successful, right? You're not better than NFL GMs, yada, yada, yada. So, you know, you're one person who, again, coming up in the industry a little bit together, we've really talked about, you know, our process behind the scenes and DMs, all that kind of stuff. But I haven't really gotten your full-on grading process. Like when you come into the, you know, this rookie class, the 2024 rookie class, how do you go about scouting the rookies? Like, what is your process? Are you, because like, you know, I brought on Zach Reed and he has a pretty refined process. And then, you know, we bring on Waldman and he has this crazy, like, you know, charting process. Are you charting? Are you grading attributes? Like, how are you going about this process?
I am grading attributes. I haven't graduated to charting yet, and that's something that I eventually would like to do. But used to, like when we like back at DFF, I used to have things graded like needs improvement, elite, good, average, needs improvement, poor. So I turn those basically into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and give grades like that. And then to give like a clean score, I basically busted it out to where what are X amount of like 20 attributes. It's quite a bit, 20 attributes. And that gives them like through 1 through 5, it gives them like a 0 out of 100 score. And like no one's obviously going to have a 0. That means you're not alive and you can't do anything. But like, let's say like someone like Devontae Walker was like the lowest with my film grade and at like 62. That's kind of the floor. Like Devontae Walker was like bad. And then and then that's like and this is phase 1. Because to bring this back to other players, Xavier Worthy only scored a 67. That's not real, but like it is real, but it's not. He is bad at a lot of things that I grade. He just can't block. He can't do big boy stuff, but like he is so fast and that's why this next season I'm going to evolve this and then I'm going to weight grades and then that'll matter more. So that's kind of where I'm at now. Charting would be nice eventually, like wide receivers, someone else does that mainly for quarterbacks and understand the offense, what they're doing a little bit better. You have that kind of numeric data there to look at. And that's kind of what I've done here. And it's, like I said, it's something that's constantly evolving. I know this is going to sound crazy. I've thrown a lot of the data out because I tried to use more data last year and that hurt me. Because I went against what I knew. Like I knew Tank Dell was good. I was just like, but this, and numbers, and I had no tank else. So it's like, and then like we look again at the shift in where the NFL is, data hasn't caught up to that. So that's just like not my thing, and I stick to film.
I dig that. I totally get that. I love, the reason I kind of ask about this is because also it's a little bit selfish. Like I'm trying to improve my process as well. And I think kind of understanding others and learning what they do, you can kind of take things and evolve your process by using some of those different aspects, right? Like I don't know if I'd ever get as granular as like a Waldman does. I've dug through his stuff and it's incredibly useful, and I'm not saying anything bad about it. I just don't know for me if I could ever get there and it would be as beneficial for me. I'd probably just buy his product and read his and do my own process and kind of just build, my values around just kind of all the different variables there are. So I totally get where you're coming from. What do you think one of the biggest misconceptions people have about film is, or about film analysis? Like, what is one of the biggest misconceptions you run across, probably on the Twitter sphere, but just in the community?
That it's not a lot of the big things is that it's objective to an extent, or that it's subjective to an extent. It is, but for certain attributes, it's not. Like some people, like to me, route running, you're good. Like you could look at good route runners, great route runners, and a poor route runner. There is no, that to me, that is very much objective. Running back is a little bit more subjective because like where a lot of people would see trash, Mike McDaniel sees treasure, like that's a lot about like usage there, and then like quarterback, that's another thing where it's just like, hey, like some guys I need to fix this, and this, and then I got something. You look at Josh Allen, and you're like, what? I thought it was the craziest pick ever. I was still young, like I didn't know what I do now, and now I understand traits. And then the people, they have the mentality of like a girl on Tinder. They're like, I can fix them, and then and then sometimes they do, and then the other misconception is that this actually is a great example. Will Levis, it's a better example right now, is they think because the film tells me one thing that I'm never going to pivot, or that's just how it is. Like Xavier Leggett, I hope he's really good. I'm really rooting for the guy. Will Levis is another one. I didn't like his tape, but he is an objectively better player now than he was than he was in college, and I'm willing to adjust to that. So those are my 2 points.
Yeah, those are good.
So when managing film takes versus like hit rate data, this is something that I go back to because I'll probably never get away from the data. I don't think I have time to do what you guys do as far as watching. But when you're doing your rookie drafts and when the hit rate data says to get out of a player because say he was drafted in the 4th round, even though you love him so much and he graded really highly with your eyes, what do you do?
I call this checking my homework, and I just had Ian Miller on the Football Guys pod, and he's someone that he's someone whose data I trust so much that I literally will go, I intentionally don't look at his data, and then I will go back and then look at it after I'm done. And then generally what I do is I'll just go back to the film, because here's why I say it is a little subjective. And then 2, like Billy knows, I don't like film tape. I don't know what it is about it. It is like the hardest shit to get. It's like a Stanley Starbucks cup or something, man. Like they hoard it. You can't get a hold of it. So like someone like Rome Odunze, I'm like, I don't know what everyone's about on this. I was like, I don't really like it that much, but I just saw like 3 kind of meh games, where there's like, but it turns out there's like 6 other games out there that are like really good. I'm like, okay, so like that's generally what I will do. And then 2, I will go look at the play calling data as much as possible. And by play calling data, I either look at what kind of play call they are, or I sometimes I see that in the film. It's like a whole other thing to look at sometimes. Like if I'm not looking at a team's quarterback, I don't always see the system that they're running, if that makes sense. So, so sometimes I need to go look at that. Like, the Texans wide receivers are examples of that, because everyone's just like the data, they're terrible, they're garbage, you shouldn't love them. And I'm like, well, whoa, wait a minute. But Quinn Ewers, so like, and that's an example of like the quarterback. I'm like, man, it turns out when you have a quarterback that's just pretty bad, your deep threat wide receivers are going to look so good. And then people were like, what, the separation data of Adonai Mitchell? Was like, yeah, man, that's because Quinn Ewers kept throwing up prayers. That's all he could do. It was like, hope you down there somewhere. You know, it's hard. Like, he wasn't throwing routes to separate on. So that's why I'll go against it. And then I try to make an effort to, I won't say explain it away, but what I think is having good hard evidence. And to take that back to the NFL, like just talking to Chad, he gave me a good warm up for this. Here's let's put it this way: someone like Drake London, for an example, or Garrett. Well, I've had to defend Garrett Wilson for like 2 weeks now. I've been drugged through the face. Yeah. It's just like, I was like, you know,
this is what happens when you put your ranks out publicly.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I just don't let Zach Wilson hurt me anymore because he's no longer in charge of a team. Like that's what it is. Like I have to have that reason. Does that make sense? It's not just, if they just slightly move him here, that's I understand film and I don't put that much stock into that. Usage matters a little bit, but like it has to take, man, it's Zach Wilson, it's Quinn Ewers, or it is talking about bad offensive coordinators. I've already erased it from my brain because, like I said, I don't let bad people hurt me anymore. The Steelers offensive coordinator.
What's it called?
Exactly.
Yeah, I forgot his name too. The guy
had a nickname
really
for him.
Right?
No,
not Arthur Smith. Not Arthur Smith. No,
the one before him. Yeah.
Oh, God.
You guys get
Eberflus. Yeah, Eberflus.
No, that's the Bears. He's still around.
Oh, sorry. Well, I don't like him either.
Is it Todd? No, that's Todd Monken. XD.
Oh my God.
I have to look this up. It's gonna bother me, guys. I wish Matt Canada. How did I fuck that
Matt
up?
Canada.
Yeah. God, that's what I say. I purge things from my brain. Thank you, Cornblum. Yeah. Matt Canada.
I was like, if Jake was here, he'd know.
Yeah, I should have just looked at the comments. It was probably there for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
My goodness.
But to answer your question, Uriah, that's when I'll go back and look at it. And sometimes I just don't have that question. Like Xavier, for instance, like Malachi Corley is a player that I understand what he is as a player. And I know that the right team can get the best out of him. But even with him getting decent draft capital to what I thought he was going to get, nothing great or anything, true. I still don't want to bet on him because like everyone keeps saying, well, he'll play the Debo role. How many Debos we got out there, guys? We just got the one. That's because he's got the smartest offensive coordinator on the planet. Malachi Corley's got Nathaniel Hackett. So, just take that.
Yeah, he's got a ball just attached to his ankles right now, holding him back. That's for sure. No, I totally get that. I mean, thinking about this question though, like Tank Dell, I feel like is such a good example of a guy who you probably like. I was in on him too, and I didn't actually buy. Like I let him fall, and I was like, I'll get him late. You know what I mean? And somebody else got him over me. And I guess the question is kind of like the hit rate data on him was like terrible, right? Small guy, all this stuff. Like we shouldn't even touch him. And it's like at what point do you just throw it out the window and say, like, I got to just go for this guy because he's that good? I don't know if there's anybody in this class that you feel that way about. I don't necessarily feel that way about anybody that was like super undervalued, that like a Tank Dell or a Puka, who I'm like, oh man, like this guy could really, really be good. And I need to get him early. But I do think, just kind of the question that Uriah asked, I do think that going forward, if I have that feeling about a player, I'm probably going to press the button a little earlier than I typically would to make sure I get those shares, because there was just a lot of meat left on the bone, I felt like last year with guys like Dell and Pukas, where I could have totally had them and I whiffed by just not taking them. So it's a tough like balance, obviously balancing like your film take versus like the hit rate data. Like it's tough.
A player that I am going against the data a little bit, and like to me, it's like people, say like, oh, I got the fire hot sauce at Taco Bell. Like, I don't think this is like crazy or anything like that. Like, it's I'm taking like AD Mitchell. I'm way ahead of the data because like you talk to a lot of data guys, they're just
sure.
like they're out on them,
I have 0 shares.
Yeah, you actually like they hate the shit out of him, but like
prime example.
Yeah, exactly. But I will take him. Yeah, but I will take them against first rounds wide receiver. I'll take them ahead of first round wide receivers. I won't say 10 times out of 10. I really like Ricky Pearsall, but I kind of flip flop which one I take first. Like if I have Anthony Richardson, I'm taking like Adonai Mitchell.
Getting that
like,
stack,
yeah. Like, but like I like them both. But like Xavier Leggett, he fell to me in the third round. And I'm like, okay, now I'll do it. And that's like now I'll do it. So like that's where I'm at, and even now more so like who I don't have anyone of is Keon Coleman, and I should. So like if anything, I sometimes fade the other way. Like a lot of times,
but that's like, probably a film take too, right? Keon's a film take. It's just the opposite way. You're just like, but no.
I get it. He's a vibey player, man. And like, again, I hate that I don't like Xavier Leggett and Keon Coleman because I think they're incredible people. But like, man, that tape is kind of dookie to me. I just can't, But you're first.
Leggett shows flashes, but he's definitely like not refined at all. But he does show some like mid-route technique flashes where he's, kind of trying to manipulate defenders and stuff like that. And he has great hands. I mean, there's stuff there that you can get excited about. But I agree. Like I'm 9 times out of 10 fading them to the end of the second, third round. Those are tough profiles. I heard a couple things that I wanted to come back to real quick. So how many games do you think you need to watch when evaluating players? Because you were talking about Roma Dunze and how like you watch like 4 games and they were the wrong one. So like how many do you think you need to get to?
I say bare minimum 3. Most of the time I get the most out of the player out of 3 games. So now, now I started to be a little bit pickier, choosier. I will intentionally go look at their worst statistical game and their best statistical game. Like I'll make sure to try to go look at those. Sometimes they're not available, which is really annoying. But like, then I just kind of like whittle down to that. And then if I have time, like you always got to go back. And like to be completely candid with people, this was my worst scouting year. And that is because like you think that, oh, I work at fantasy full time, I'm gonna have all this time to look at film. And like turns out like I actually got to do a lot of work for football, guys. That's like just pretty mundane. And I still have a job. So like I had less time to go back because like the year before last, I rewatched games and like I watch every time there's like a new wave on Caddy Cuts. I'm like, all right, let's go look at this. And like where I did lack is like I didn't look at some of the other tape out there, like I didn't see enough of Ricky Pearsall. Like turns out I'm like, man, this guy's as good as people I trust say is, I just didn't have time. So that is to answer your question, 3 is the minimum, but it's just, it never feels like enough.
Yeah. It's as many as you could possibly get to, but I'm with you. Like I'm trying to hit at least 3 every time, hit that, bottom top and then kind of one in the middle for sure. And I do, just the last thing I'll say here, a big part of the film process, I think, is doing it with blinders on, ignoring everybody else, like ignoring all of your favorite analysts, ignoring all that stuff, because bias inherently creeps in even without that stuff. And you have to try to fend that stuff off left and right. But, if you start listening to other people, it makes it even harder because then you're going to be like, what is he seeing that I'm not? And you start trying to fit things in and you don't want to do that. So I think, doing it that way, like you were saying, trying to ignore like your favorite data analyst, all that kind of stuff while you're doing it is super, super important. I have one more question, man. One more question about film evaluation before we move on. This isn't on the sheet, but I got to ask it because I feel like this is something people do want to know. How do you know what you know? Like, how do you feel comfortable evaluating players? Like, what is it like in your past? Like, have you learned the skills? Like, what is it that got you here where you're like, yeah, I'm comfortable doing this?
One, it's it's attempting to coach football, and that's like something that I tried
Mm.
in high school. And then that's not, believe it or not, it's not coaching high school football. It's going to the coaching camps where you learn the most. Like I've learned talking to other coaches at coaching camps. Like I went to an OU one, and like here, like I learned everything about the mesh concept at like a coaching camp. And then two, now we live in a time where there is more info out there than ever to refine. Like Chase Daniels is someone that I look at his content a lot. Like one of the smartest brains in this space, Jordan Vanek, like he's went through like the scouting academy. He said, man, if you know where to look now, and like especially with YouTube, there are so many sources out there for you to know that like you don't even need to pay for the scouting academy. That's just if you want to be a scout and you need a network. But he's like, and then like two, I've been fortunate enough that I talk to some of the smartest people every day. Like I talk to Matt Waldman all the time and like legitimately get like advice from him and how to look at stuff. And to do this, you have to have a little bit of confidence, and finally getting validated by people who know what they're talking about. It does feel good. And like I said, it's only just that, guys. Like I take some shit for having opinions now, and and it's not even just that, like having to defend that. So a lot of this stuff is constant study and getting better. That's why I said this film process season I didn't do as well. I know what I didn't do as well. I didn't watch enough. And here's, I did refine my process a little bit better. Here's what we're going to do next season. Because like, again, I said I wanted to objectively grade these out. And then when I looked at Xavier Worthy's grade down there by Devontae Walker, I'm like, that's not right. And then I look at
the math ain't mathin'.
Exactly. And I'm like, here's how I go forward. So it's constantly learning and using resources. Like I joke, this is a life lesson. There is no excuse for people to be stupid anymore. But a lot of that is going to trusted sources. It's like real easy to go on 4chan and then you're believing into some crazy shit, you know. But like, at least for football, there's just like no excuses to be like dumb, and you can learn. There's plenty of smart people that put their content out there, and a lot of people in this space are more accessible than you think. Just ask, you know, and that's what I've done. Take a lot of time to improve my craft, and then people who are smarter than me said, "Good job, kid." So
yeah, no, that's great. It's a great tip. I mean, we talked a lot about like that kind of resonates with me thinking back to the Waldman episode and kind of how he was getting props way down the road for kind of the stuff he was doing. And I think we do great work. And what you're saying also resonates with me because a lot of the way I learned, I mean, I grew up playing football and like, so I have the background. I like, you know, I know the basics, all that stuff like from that. But growing up, I just had such an interest in route running and route technique. I was like watching videos as a kid on YouTube, trying to, you know, watching like coaches teach that stuff. And there's so much more now than there was even when I was a kid. And there's so, you know, there's just so many resources out there. And like you're saying, Waldman, like all these guys are super accessible. You don't realize it. Not even myself. Like I've been hesitant to reach out in the past because you think that they're, you know, they're too big to talk to you, but they're not. They're all generally really good people, really great people. So I appreciate you walking me through that. I'm always interested in kind of how people got to where they got and why they think they know what they know, because these are tough skills to build and learn, and it takes time. So it always interests me. But
and we joked in a sleeper chat that like some people now, like I think Data took a big L in 2023. So now I've seen people try to like jump into film.
Oh God, everybody.
Yeah. And I'm like, and this, I'm like, stop it. You know, I've had to really fight for this here. You're really messing this up. Like they're kind of like what Kanye does to black people. I'm like, wait, no, you're not helping the cause. You know, like stop talking. Some of the stuff that I see coming out of people's mouth is just wild. I'm like, man, it took me 3 years to be confident to show anyone that I was even. Yeah, it's like you spend an off season and all of a sudden, you know, you're Matt Miller, you're freaking Bucky Brooks.
And again, and their process is like, you know, a grading system that has like no sense of formulaic, like just outcome, like just, it's just, and I'm not saying that everybody's doing bad work, but it takes a long time to kind of understand what you actually want to do yourself and the attributes you're looking for, and to define those attributes and say, this is what I'm actually looking for. It takes time to get there. And so I'm skeptical of the people who just jump in and are like, I know what I'm talking about no matter what.
Yeah.
I do like, I do like going through that history. It's very, very interesting. Okay, so let's get into some Dynasty stuff a little bit, right? We've been talking about film evaluation, kind of that, but I want to know kind of, do you have a Dynasty philosophy when you enter a league? Like when you are going into a startup, are you like zero running back person? Are you playing the board? Like what's your style when you head into a league?
Oh, cool. We just went through this with Ian. And it's for me, I say that Dynasty is playing jazz. You're never going in and say, here's the song we're going to play, because that's a way where you end up reaching for things and losing a lot of value or being blind to value on the board. But some philosophies, because like you say that, but like I joke that like fantasy, you kind of got your pronouns, like I'm a 0 RB film bro, like that's who I am, and like Dynasty or whatever. So like I love draft picks, and I tend to want to stay young, and I don't value running backs. That is about the only, I say, philosophy I stick to, is like I'm either going to get Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall, I'll pull the trigger on Taylor, or I'm probably digging way deep. But if Derrick Henry falls to me at a certain range, I'm not going to avoid that value. And I'm also learning now, again, like having the luxury of talking to so many people. I think I'm one of the least risk averse managers out there. And I don't know what that says about me. It's like finding something new about yourself. I don't know how to deal with it yet. I need to have therapy with myself in my Dynasty rosters. But I'm not very risk averse. I'm a very risk it for the biscuit type player. Like, I'm like, man, I'll trade Josh Allen for Anthony Richardson right now. Give me the extra value. Like that's the kind of guy I am. And I always want that high upside. So.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's definitely different from myself, where like, I'll probably hold Josh Allen. Like I'm typically tough to trade with. I'm hopping on the Trade Addicts pod later, and I'm super interested how it's going to be, just like having conversations. Cause I'm going to be like, yeah, like I'm not the easiest to trade with all the time, when they're just like,
I've never completed a trade with you.
And they're just, right. Yeah. Then MG is like in my DMs in the leagues we're in, trying to get like a deal done always. And I don't think we've gotten a deal done in years. It's just, I'm very discerning about it, and I only want to improve my roster, and I'm not trading to trade. So I am concerned with upside, but I do avoid risky profiles often. So yeah, that's interesting. I do dig that, because it's a different way to play it, and there's obviously a lot of ways to skin a cat. So we're in a lot of leagues, and I'm interested in kind of how you manage a ton of leagues, right? So how do you stay ahead of your competition, being in a league or being in so many leagues with so many different, people, and you're in the industry, you're making content, like you got a lot going on, right? Like how are you staying ahead?
A lot of it is picking what you're going to be bad at. I suck at waivers, man. I just don't care. Like I'm going to miss out sometimes. That is the thing that I've eliminated even trying. If I happen to be there, I'll click it, but like the people are like, all right, it's Tuesday, I'm going to go look at my waivers. I am never, ever, ever going to be that guy. I can't. I've tried to be that dude. That's why I hate redraft, because you can't make it in redraft at the waivers. Yeah. I'm like, bro, people think Dynasty's too much work. I'd rather debate with you for an hour than like sit there and do waivers on a trade. But like, and that goes to my next point, is that like I try to be an active trader. I'm always an active trader. Even in comparison to a lot of people, I don't have a ton of leagues like a lot of people may have. But I look at a player, I go look at like obviously like I have a few of my favorite Golden Boy rosters that I can name who I have on there. But like I have a lot of them that every time I'm like, oh wow, this is pretty good. Or like every time I look at it, or I'm like, oh God, what are we doing here? And I have to like rethink. And then I like live in Colorado, so I smoke a lot of stuff and I forget sometimes. But so that's why I like thank God Sleeper had the feature where you click a player and you look at like all of your you look at all of your exposure, like or something on where they at, where you have them. So that's how I go and do that. And I'm like, man, I want to start by like one day I'm like, today's Dontavian Wicks day. So I'm like, if I don't have them, I'm going to go try to make a trade for him. You know, sometimes it doesn't really work out because I'm never, I might try to win a trade. Like I'll try to win a trade, but I genuinely, and maybe this hurts me, and I like talking to you guys because you really talk about trade strategy and a little bit of psychology of it. It's like I may lose value sometimes, but I always try to send an honest trade because I find it easier for me to make trades when people know that I'm a good trade partner. And if someone's like comes at me, even me with me doing that, like I'm gonna piss someone off. Someone's like, I would not trade this for this player that's not very good. Like this player, I think this player is the next player that they're not ever gonna be. And that's that's just what they think. And I tell them, I'm sorry, man. This is how I value it. Here's what I was thinking. If we can meet somewhere in the middle, maybe not. If not, I'll just go along my merry way. That's how I try to approach a trade. Sometimes, like again, when you get raked about Garrett Wilson for 2 days, I'm like, you know what? Today is let's try to screw everybody over for Garrett Wilson. Apparently, people don't really like him, so let's just see what I can get. Yeah. And I may go out there, and I even straight up told people, I'm like, look at my mentions, dog. Go and then you'll see why I did that. So that's kind of how I approach from the startup. That's how I manage my leagues, is always being active in the trades. Always try to acquire draft picks. Like that is, I'm a draft pick hunter. That's free money. That's your currency. Even if I'm not spending it on an actual draft pick player, I'm using that as an add-in on a trade.
What are some tips? Obviously, the focus of this podcast has always been to kind of like educate and help newer Dynasty owners. It's where it all spun off from. But like, for you, what would be your biggest tip for somebody new to Dynasty?
I know a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this. Like there's so many people out there. Like you're about to go on the pod that they like. If you talk about their biggest haters, keep trade cut. I tell people, learn market value. Like I think there's people that like, to me, you're that meme where you're on the train that's looking at the brick wall, or you look at the window. I think keep trade cut is one of the greatest tools on the planet, man. You could use it to screw people over in the trade, but like not really, if according to math, or you can use it just to understand how the market sets. So use those. Don't use them as God. Let's say man, the Texans are good. I know what Bobby Slowick's offense is. I really like Nico Collins. Maybe I shouldn't overvalue Stephon Diggs. Go check Keep Trade Cut. I tell everyone like that's how you should start, is because it's a good starter for understanding value, because a lot of people have a hard time, especially now, like really seeing the football guys. And like, this is when you work at a big company, you have a broader audience. You realize the broad audience are really dumb compared to us. Like, and I'm not being shitty. They are dumb. Like you think what you think is a common brain Dynasty, like we are a niche, guys. Dynasty
oh no
brain.
Yeah no, the amount of effort and focus we put into this, nobody is. Not many people are.
But yeah, we are the 1%, guys. Like I'm not blind. I have the data to back that. So bringing that in there is like learn the basics of value. And that's why I tell people, like, don't listen to people like that'll get you hurt. Yeah, it can't get you screwed over, but you're not even ready. You got that redraft. I went on Fantasy Pros and looked at ECR bullshit like that. You can't do that.
No, it's a great tip. And I put something out recently about Keep Trade Cut, and somebody was like, who's using it? I'm like, a lot of people. So if they're using it, I want to at least understand what their values are. And the best thing you can do, obviously, is at some point create your own values, and then you can easily look at market and say, I agree or excuse me, I agree or disagree, and go above or below that market value in your leagues and after players. So there's like a way to take advantage of it. You just have to know your own value of the player, and then you can really, really use those tools to take advantage of your league market. So that's a great tip. Also, the trading thing is huge too. I tell people all the time, like, to send trades like almost like scheduled, like in a way, like you want to send them weekly, bi-weekly, like be aggressive. Not necessarily like, because I'm fairly risk averse, but I do think you want to be aggressive in trying to get deals done that are going to improve your roster. Like the more you press, the more likely it is things are going to get done. I found, and it's not sending bad offers. It's definitely sending like Jagger saying, like, you want to send something that's reasonable, right? I don't think I'm ever sending my best offer first. Personally, like that's just not how I play. Yeah. I'm not going to send my best offer, but I'm going to send something that's like in the ballpark, right? And you can use the tools like Jagger's saying to kind of get you there. But if you send reasonable trades constantly, I find that eventually you get a response, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like something counterables, like you said, because like I literally say, here's how much I'll spend. And then I'll like, it's how you would go to an auction, guys. Like Dynasty, you could take lessons from real life, and it's using a market, man. Like if I'm willing to spend X amount on Garrett Wilson, I'm going to come in lower. And then when you counter me, I'm gonna be like, oh, I guess I could throw in that pick. I was already ready.
Third in, yeah, I'll throw the third in there.
Damn yeah, in my head, like that's the deal we're probably going to make. But if you're willing to go cheaper, hell yeah, I've like double one. So
yes, exactly. All right, so sticking with the trades real quick here. Do you find that more of your trades get done from the trade block or DMs or without messages, like just straight sending them and getting done? Like just kind of thinking about it, how do you think that works out for you?
You posing the question on one of your shows has actually made me think this. If the trade block lowers values, I find it to be the most useless thing on the planet. Like I used to think it's good. I'm like, oh, cool. There's a trade blocks. ESPN would never, but like, but like now, like, people are like, Jalen Tolbert is on the trade block. Joe Flacco. Like, I know that your fifth QBs on the trade block. Like, I know that. You don't need to tell me that. And then it's just like, I know that this player that was down bad that just got news, like you've been dying to trade him for a while. Like, I get it. So I don't find it very helpful. And like, I said this somewhere, but it kind of makes sense a little bit. Even more now. I said this somewhere else that essentially it's like, actually I tweeted it. I remember I'm always tweeting ridiculous shit. But essentially I said, it's like, you're always going to be the guy at the back of the dance. I hope someone dances with me. That's what the trade block is. We know you want to dance, dude. But like, what are you bringing to the table? You're never going to kiss the girl unless you like take a shot. You got to go out there and do something. So like, I always find the icebreaker to be the way most of my trades get done because I've sent them. That's how it happens. Most of them get done because I've sent them.
Trade block equals auto accept bargain bin at Walmart. Joe coming in with the heater. That's hilarious. Yeah. No, he's absolutely right. And I have kind of avoided the trade block as well. Obviously you've heard us talk about it on the show, so it's just like it doesn't seem very helpful. It almost has people coming at you with low ball offers, and it's like I could have just avoided this whole thing and sent out offers myself or engaged this thing differently, which I would suggest is kind of the better way to go about it. Okay, so I want to talk. You mentioned your rankings a little bit. I want to talk about them. So you had Rome Odunze like super high in these wide receiver rankings, right? And Garrett Wilson over like Tyreek Hill, over DJ Moore. Speaking of kind of Rome Odunze on the same team, even over Apuka, who just had his historic year. So it's kind of a question of balancing like the youth versus production question. And like, how does the process kind of get you to where you are with these guys, balancing, the points versus the dynasty value, which is like a Rome Odunze, kind of Garrett Wilson, who hasn't necessarily achieved the points that, we want or have expected. And kind of along with that, the values of like a Rome Odunze, they can fluctuate greatly, right?
Yeah.
Value is subjective. And based on what happens year one, like he could tumble. So I guess, how did your process kind of get you to this point?
I'm willing to trust my film takes if the draft capital supports that a little bit more. Does that make sense? That like Rome Odunze would be probably last class's wide receiver one by like a landslide. If you really think about it, like he was the 10, he was a 109 this year for the Bears solely because
real draft,
yeah, solely because Marvin Harrison Jr. and And one could argue he's better than Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors just had a historic season and is going to the most wide open wide receiver room out of anyone. So like that's kind of the only thing I think that's really putting his value ahead of. And I'm willing to buy that early. And I'm willing, even if he has at least an 800-yard season, which some people might think is disappointing if he's not immediately given that wide receiver one value. I still think I'm going to have a wide receiver one either, if not this year, next year. And I explained to most people, my brain works like an Excel spreadsheet. First, it's a talent, what they are in a vacuum. And then I start sorting by the offense that they're in and then the age. So how someone gets edged out like DJ Moore, I just think that clearly Rome Odunze is going to be the guy a lot longer than DJ Moore is. And Keenan Allen bothers me even less. Let's put this, we've already seen him decline as a player. I actually like Keenan Allen as like a buy low. I think he's cheap enough now where I've started drafting him in Dynasty, but like, let's put it this way. He's going to be the wide receiver 3 sooner than later. We always do this, but he's Keenan Allen, but like we saw with Puka Nacua, like what happens when Cooper Kupp comes back? I was like, I don't know what happens to 31-year-old wide receivers who've been injured 3 times in a row. What happens with them? Like they generally, they're not the wide receiver 1 anymore. So that's where I'm willing to go ahead of the market. I think that his talent is so good. They've done everything that they should have done for Justin Fields. They got a quality they got an offensive coordinator. They like people want to talk about having like rookie quarterbacks not being able to produce or not being 4,000-yard passers. It's because most rookie quarterbacks get drafted to the Jets or like, let's go to our team, the Patriots right now. Like that team's so bad. That's not happening.
There's
Caleb
hope.
Williams.
Don't do that.
There's hope.
No.
This is another
I know how bleak it is.
Yeah.
So I only bring Patriots fans on. That's really
Billy.
But that's where I'm at.
It's a great point.
Yeah. So it's just like get him now because all you're going to be doing is trying to trade for him at that price later. That's what I think.
Okay, so speaking to like Puka versus Odunze and how you have Odunze ranked above Puka, is it basically coming down to draft capital there? Because
no.
So what else is it?
Caleb Williams versus Matt Stafford.
Okay, that is another factor. That's fair.
That's literally it. That's like what's explaining to like the average person. Like, how could you dare do that? I'm like, lower your voice, calm down. Like, you don't need to all caps me or anything like that. It's just that like it is one minor thing. Like I think Puka's a great player. I don't think this isn't like fuck Puka. It's a Dunze time now. It's just that like.
Why do you hate Puka? That's the question. Like, why do you hate?
Why do you hate Puka?
Yeah, it's not that. Like, it's literally that. Like Rome Odunze is going to have Caleb Williams for at least 4 to 5 years. That's Matt Stafford. Do we have 4 to 5 years? I don't know. So that's it.
That's fair. And obviously, you can make the case that a lot of Puka's success hinges
because
on
he's a Ram.
Matt Stafford and his coach, right? Like you can definitely do that if you wanted to.
Yeah,
so that makes sense. Okay, so how do you interact with? I mean, we're taking it kind of to the content side here. How do you interact with other analysts, content creators when they're attacking your work? Now, I know you've gotten a lot of pushback on these rankings, right? And we don't need to get specific necessarily, but I'm interested in how you kind of address those situations.
Now, since Joe Bryant pays my rent, I'm a little nicer than I used to be.
It's so much easier to be nice when football is paying for your life. It's easy.
But he also like I joke with him. I'm like, you guys put the quarter in the jukebox. Like who you bought. I was very clear. But like for the most part, I engage. I always I try not to be condescending. I give my reasoning. And then when I feel like I'm not going to get anywhere, I just stop, if that makes sense. But if you're a douche about it, you better be good because I'm going to swing hard. Like I've done that. And like I try to do it in he knows. He knows. I try to do it in such a way that like even Joe can't get mad. Like, would I put a link to like hymns.com or something on there? Like, I'm like, come on, Joe, that's just funny, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the way you addressed the specific situation was really well done. So really mature, let me put it that way, even with the slight immaturity in there, but it's very Jagger-esque. It's very, comedic. And I think it hit really well, but
it's
I
on
think that,
brand.
it is, but you also got to let some of the, like, not you specifically as a content creator, you just got to let some of the shit slide off. Like, you're going to get jabs in the comments. You're going to get people coming at you because we're putting out takes and we're going to have different opinions on Caleb Williams and Matt Stafford and all that kind of nonsense. So it's not that big of a deal. And when people take it there, it's definitely interesting, but I love the way you approached it. So just wanted to touch on that. It's definitely one of those more unique things that I think a lot of people don't deal with. And of course, unless you create content, which is, us. So I saw a little tweet on Twitter from you. I still call it Twitter because I'm always going to call it Twitter. Yeah, it's never going to be the other thing. So you said stop letting players and coaches who are no longer with the team affect your fantasy decisions. You have an example of where you see this happening?
The Steelers in Atlanta. And it's weird. I know one coach affects both of those things, but I mainly think about
same guy. The stink just travels with him.
Yeah, but
we can name him. Yeah,
it's Arthur Smith. Is like Arthur Smith isn't in charge of personnel. He calls the plays, and he was a pretty decent play caller. Like that was his only job. That's what people don't understand. Some people are good coordinators. They're just bad head coaches. That's like, man, you're a great assistant manager, but when we have you running the whole thing, you can't do it.
Josh McDaniels, come on.
Yes. And that's even specific. I don't think he can leave the Pats, bro. I don't. Oh man, that dude. I don't think he has to talk to people. They should put him upstairs with an Xbox where he clicks, his plays that he wants done, and that's it. But that's to digress. That's what I mean. And then again, to bring it back to Garrett Wilson, Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle are two of the worst. That was the worst quarterback room I've ever seen. And I've ever seen. As like a person with smart eyes, I've probably seen a worse one, but I didn't realize that like how bad it was. Tim Boyle, how he got on an NFL roster. Like I liked Bob Saleh, and I used to think that like I was like, man, you guys shouldn't fire him. It's not his fault. Like he's a defensive guy, and then they whiffed. They could fix it. But when I saw that he allowed Tim Boyle to enter the building, I'm like, maybe you should fire him. I don't know. Seems like a terrible decision. So like that's kind of what I mean by that. It's like the Pats are another one where I think that like Gerard Mayo will bring a lot of the same defensive elements, but things that he's done is clearly different from the Patriots. And a lot of times, a lot of people are like, well, it's this team or it's this team. I'm like, okay, but that was like 3 offensive coordinators ago. What are you talking about? It's not even like the same system. And that's what I mean by don't let coaches and players. Like, yes, this happened because of this. Did this happen because they sucked, or did their situation sucks? And that's identifying the difference between the two.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Great answer.
So I know you're short on time here. We had a little scheduling mix up, so we're gonna get Jagger back on the show for sure. In the next couple months here, got some more stuff we want to talk about, but just gonna get you out of here on a couple quick questions here about the rookie class. I think everybody's interested in the rookie class. So can you give us one rookie that you're higher on than consensus?
Marshawn Lloyd.
Okay.
I've broken my thumb on Underdog. It's like I had to like purposely like calm down. I'm like, my exposure is like insanity. Like, and they even show you how much money you spent. Like, man, you could have supported a small family in Haiti for how much you've loved Marshawn Lloyd.
There's no way I like him that much. I guess I do like him that much.
But where's the upside though, right? Yeah.
It's like Josh Jacobs had his worst efficiency in his career, and he's kind of hitting that running back apex. And Matt LaFleur has been incredible. Like if you listen to Coach Index, he's been candid about it. He's like, hey, yeah, I like to use multiple backs. They haven't had anyone more than like 60% of the backfield since like Eddie Lacy, and that was Mike McCarthy time. They just don't do that. So when you think that we have an NFL that wants players to constantly be rotated in and not to wear them down. You want the best player who can do the most with limited touches. And that's kind of shifted me away from the running backs I do like. Like I still like David Montgomery a lot, but that's because he's a Lion. And I know how they're going to use that. But like now I just want the guy that he can score anytime he gets the ball. And Marshawn Lloyd fits that profile.
That's a good one, definitely. And he's kind of tumbled down the board a little bit. Like you see him in the third, fourth round, even in like I think it was in the Devy League you and I are in, that he fell out of the Devy draft, and I got him off waivers. So like just speaking to how his value has fallen, and I agree with you. Josh Jacobs kind of on the back end of decline, already had a 300 touch season. Don't really love those guys thereafter. So with you on that, like that pick. How about one rookie that's going way too late?
That's going just way too late.
Yeah.
I think Ricky Pearsall is like, I almost don't want to. I don't want to tell people, and I know that's like a spicy one. But like, I don't want to tell people about it because I like getting him still. But like, the data and the film say that you should probably like Ricky Pearsall. But I mean, the data is like first round draft capital is the best indicator of wide receiver success. So like, even I love Marshawn Lloyd, you shouldn't be drafting Marshawn Lloyd ahead of like Ricky Pearsall. Like I wouldn't do that. Like I go get those wide receivers. I'd say like the wide receivers in general are falling a little too far. But to get deeper in the cut per se, I think Ray Davis, man. I like Ray Davis.
Good call.
I don't. He's like he's 26 years old, or I don't even know how old he is. I don't
he's
care.
33 years old.
Doesn't matter.
I'm only gonna use him for a year anyway. Yeah, like I just like if he could be Damian Pierce, good. That means I can get a couple of firsts for him while he's hot. You know, that's what I'm like. Like it's not.
I remember those days. Whew.
Yeah. People are like, again, Dynasty's jazz, guys. Like, it's not so much that I think that Ray Davis is going to be a cornerstone of my roster. There is few players that have a clear path for raised value. Like, I know that he's going to jump in value because I know how the Buffalo Bills use their running backs. And I know that James Cook absolutely sucks in the red zone. Like it's like, he's terrible. I've watched it on film. I've like the numbers say he's bad. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing, but Josh Allen, they don't want to hit him in the ground either. You know, it's that first touchdown. You're getting a second round pick. Congrats. You just profited off Ray Davis. That's my sales pitch.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay. I got one more for you before you get out of here. One more. One rookie you think is a landmine, like the value will blow up negatively post acquisition.
I gotta really think about this because I love them all right now.
Right, it's rookie fever season. They're all great. Yeah,
Bo Nix is someone to be spicy. He's gonna hold value, but I'm prepared for people to be disappointed in Jaden Daniels.
Oh wow! Oh wow! That's interesting. I had a question I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, he's that's a commander, interesting. But he's a Cliff Kingsbury commander. That's what I just can't. I can't, man. I drafted my first share because the league put a gun in my head. Basically, they're like, you can't move, and I'm like, can I trade back for JJ McCarthy? Like, no. And I'm like, I guess I'll take him because I need a quarterback. So
yeah, I'm not. And he'll probably. I mean, he'll hold some value, like you said. Yeah, he'll hold value. Yeah,
but he'll disappoint. People want him to be like Anthony Richardson right away, but he's like small and like not as good.
I think that's interesting because people would technically tell you that he was better than Anthony Richardson coming out, right? Like as a college player.
As a college player, but like again, one has Shane Steichen. And and I saw, and what I mean better as like a rusher, like Anthony Richardson, even I say he's more built to like run into people like Jaden Daniels does, but
255 now.
Yeah, he's 255. Josh Allen and Anthony Richardson could do that. Lamar Jackson, he don't be doing that. Jaden Daniels, you need to learn how to run a little bit better. And Cliff Kingsbury's had one of the most efficient offenses I've ever seen. So
awesome. All right, man. I think Uriah and I are going to stick around to hit on a trade or two here, but Jagger, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody go follow him at Fantasy Blue Chip, all his work at Football Guys, does great stuff. We'll have him back on, but again, thanks for joining us, man. Really good time.
Love you guys. See you.
Appreciate it.
Take care. Awesome. All right. Awesome. So we we do have 2 trades here. Well, I have one that's not on the sheet, but we have 3 trades. I didn't see that. Go ahead. You want to run through them?
Let's run through them. So first off, we got trades and non-trades. I guess these are all trades, but we have DK Metcalf, and I feel like this is going to be a common name getting traded this offseason. Just a heads up. I just feel like he's going to get passed around quite a bit. But anyway, DK Metcalf for 25 first and 4th.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I assuming the pick's not a super high pick. Like, I'd like that for DK. Yeah, still 26 years old, boom bust stud. Yeah.
Yeah. I think even if like JSN like does what we think he could do, I still think it's gonna be like JSN and DK. Like, I think the odd man out here is probably gonna be Tyler Lockett eventually, just age and everything else there. I think this is definitely the last hurrah for him. So yeah, I think that's a good price for DK as well.
Yeah, I think that was DU1 maybe.
Right.
I think that happened in Dynasty List League 1. Anyway.
Next up, DK Metcalf and a 25 second.
Did you freeze? Oh, Uriah froze. I was wondering. I thought he was big pause on that one. Oh boy.
Sorry. Yeah, DK Metcalf, 25 second for Kyler Pitts and a 26 4th. Man, it really comes down to, am I buying into Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts? It's the best quarterback he's had thrown to him. He had 1,000 yards as a rookie. All those things, which I actually have bought into. But man, it's really hard for me to do that. I think I'll still go with DK in a second.
Yeah, man, this is tough. I mean, all of these are tight end premium leagues, so there's that portion of it. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be willing to make this bet for a Pitts. Yeah, like it's very close, and the 25 second is obviously nice to have on the Metcalf side. So I mean, this is a good trade both ways, but I think Pitts might hold the value here, and if he hits, obviously you're going to probably have the better asset.
All right, and so then last one we have Tank Dell, Bucky Irving for 27 first. Don't do that.
Uriah hates trades with 26 or 27 picks, specifically 27.
Oh my god! Like maybe it's a deficiency in the way I play the game, and maybe I should be doing it. But I am not trying to sell my picks 3 years out. Like, I don't understand it. But anyway, here's a trade: Tank Dell, Bucky Irving for 27 first, 26 second, and a 26 third. It's like, okay, so you're selling your 27 first, like you're selling it at the absolute lowest value it's ever possibly going to be. The only way it could be any less is if you sold it last year. I just don't understand it. Anyway, such a fluid, asset that you're just like wasting. But I'll take Tank Dell.
Yeah, you say that, and then you're gonna take the player. Like, what the? Yeah, of course, bro. The player, take Dell here. I mean, the 27 pick, you won't see it for 3 years. So I mean,
you might not even be in the league. Like, I don't understand.
Like, I just think like, if Tank Dell is what you think he is, you could easily recoup the 27 plus. Just for him alone, if you wanted to do that at some point. So like, that's how I see it. Joe is just ripping it in the comments. I'm like unable to speak right now. He's the first one. I think I visibly saw Uriah throw up in his mouth. 7 pick. And then at your dramatic pause, you say you're trying to make it dramatic. Pause. Don't do that.
It's internet connection. I don't know.
Nah, man. I appreciate everybody joining YouTube and commenting. It's a blast on here. So definitely get in here for the comments, if nothing else. Yeah, definitely agree on that one. I have one that I did want to bring to the table real quick to finish it off and get us out of here. This is a trade I made. So TJ Hawkinson all right, so I think it's TJ Hawkinson in a 4th for George Kittle and a 2nd, assuming the 2nd is going to likely be 201 to 203. Let's give it that caveat. So once again, TJ Hawkinson and a 4th for George Kittle a high second. We'll call it that.
I mean, if you're trying to win this year, then I'm taking the Kittle on the second side. And to tear down from TJ Hawkinson down to Kittle to pick up a second, I think is a smart thing. Because if it doesn't pan out right, if you're trying to win now, we don't know if TJ Hawkinson's going to be playing for you in September. We're not entirely sure there or at what kind of level. Then I would take the Kittle side. If it doesn't work out, you have a high second to kind of recoup, and you didn't really lose out on a whole lot there. So I do like the Kittle side.
That's how I was kind of thinking of this. I did acquire the Kittle side, and I like TJ Hawkinson. I think his scoring is a little flat. Like on average, he's scoring more like a 12, 13 points per game, which is kind of replaceable. Like he does have obviously boom games, but George Kittle is known for those explosive games, those like 30+ point games that can win you weeks. And I don't really, that's not what I think of when I think of TJ Hawkinson. Plus, I'm likely losing a year on Hawkinson on a competitive team. And this allows me to kind of mitigate, that risk alone. And then also the risk of Kittle just, being terrible or declining all of a sudden is again mitigated a little bit by that early second round pick. I think a lot of people would take the Hawkinson side here, and I can't like kill you for that at all. Hawkinson's still a good player, still has a lot of years left, a lot of years left. I just thought that this was a good play for both situationally and adding some long-term, futures to the team too. So that's how I viewed it.
I agree. Hopefully that works out for you.
Awesome.
All right. Well, anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here?
No, I just want to say thanks again to Jagger for joining us. If you want to connect with him, you can also connect with him in our Discord. So it's free. Hop in there. He's in there. We have a bunch of people who have guested on our show in there, which is really great. But again, you can follow him at Fantasy Blue Chip on Twitter. He does great work on the video side of things. Super funny guy. Great follow. So yeah, definitely show him some love and appreciate him joining us again.
All right. Other than that, you can follow us also on Twitter at Uriah Dawkins, at Willie Beeman FF, at Dynasty Underdog. Listen to us on Spotify if you can. Check out the YouTube, all that stuff. But more importantly, thanks for listening and have a good night.
Peace out.
Peace out.